Good evening, everyone. It is 5:02 p.m. and I call this public meeting to order. I want to thank everyone who is joining us this evening. If you want to make a public comment on the items listed under closed session agenda, please listen carefully to the directions provided by the clerk at the opening of each item. Mrs. Elizondo.
Public hearing for visitors who wish to address the board on closed session items. 15 minutes of this portion of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the board on closed session items. Speakers seeking to comment on other items are requested to make those comments during the public comment portion of the meeting at 6:30 p.m. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. The school board is prohibited by law from taking action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusion should be drawn if the school board does not respond to public comment at this time. If you wish to address the board on an item included in this section of the agenda, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you are joining us remotely and would like to make a public comment, click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. We will allow speakers from the audience to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Salazar, we do not have participants who wish to address the board at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Elizondo. Seeing none, hearing none, I close the public hearing and I adjourn to closed session. Discuss items 1A through 1D. The board will reconvene at the closed session. And if we're Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30 p.m. and I call this regular meeting to order. Sorry, gavel. Welcome to tonight's board meeting. I want to welcome the media and everyone joining us in person and in Zoom. We ask those joining us this evening to please silence any electronic devices not linked to the meeting. Please note that Superintendent Lai will not be in attendance this evening. Therefore, Deputy Superintendent Sandra Schwartz will serve as Secretary of the board for this meeting. If you would like to make a public comment, please listen carefully to the directions provided by the clerk at the opening of each public comment period. Deputy Superintendent Schwartz.
President Salazar, Acting Clerk Fleek, members of the board, staff, and members of the public. I would like to remind you of our vision and mission. Our vision, Madera Unified will set the standard for hard work, creativity, and resiliency with a fearless drive to continuously improve. In our mission, we are committed to creating and sustaining a culture enabling Madera Unified students to experience an unparalleled educational journey that is intellectually, socially, and personally transformative. That is the nature of our work this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Schwartz. Ms. Elizondo, please call the roll.
Trustee Castillo. Here. Trustee Cervantes Hernandez. Here. Trustee Ahmad.
Here.
Trustee Cortez.
Here.
Trustee Dybert. Here. Trustee Fleek.
Here.
Trustee Seibert.
Here.
Clerk Mendoza, noting he's absent. And President Salazar.
Here. Thank you, Ms. Elizondo. Please note that Clerk Mendoza is not in attendance and Trustee Fleek will be the acting clerk tonight. Trustee Seibert, would you please lead us in a flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trustee Seibert. Tonight's scheduled invocation will be provided by Pastor Lance Leach of Valley West Christian Center of Madera. I invite Pastor Leach to the podium.
Good evening, and thank you, Board of Trustees, Deputy Superintendent Schwartz, staff, parents, and students that are here. Let's pray. Father God, so much excitement at the beginning of this year, and we come to you and ask you for the great protection over our campuses. We ask you for the angelic supervision over every campus in Madera Unified School District. We thank you for that protection, not only in the classroom, but on the fields and the gyms, throughout the corridors, and even in the parking lots and transportation to and from our campus. We pray for that great spirit of protection. We thank you that you would thwart any attempts within our campuses and on the grounds before they begin. We thank you for all of the incredible teachers and administrators on each campus. We thank you for their love and passion. We pray that you would continue to strengthen them and encourage them. We pray for all the students that they would continue with creativity, excitement, and joy, express who they are and the gifts, the God-given gifts that they've been blessed with, that we continue to foster in this community. We thank you for all the support that happens throughout the school day, even in the weekends, for our campuses and every area within the meeting places of the district. And God, we ask tonight for this board and this group here that make great plans. We thank you for their vision. We pray that it would continue. We pray, Father God, that it would be just enhanced by the public and support and excitement for our greatest resource in our city, the community of students and educators. And we thank you for all that you're doing this year and will continue to do 2024, 2025. In your name I pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pastor Leach. Closed session reportable actions, Deputy Superintendent Schwartz.
President Salazar, Acting Clerk Fleek, and members of the board and public, we have nothing to report from closed session.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Schwartz. Item number 5, adoption of the agenda. Mrs. Elizondo.
Action to add or delete items from any portion of the agenda or to discuss any consent agenda items must be taken prior to the adoption of the agenda. Board Bylaw 9323.2.
Deputy Schwartz, does staff have items to add or remove from the agenda?
President Salazar and Acting Clerk Fleek and members of the board, staff does not have any changes to the agenda this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Schwartz. Trustees, do you have items to add or delete from the agenda? Mrs. Castillo?
No.
Thank you. Mrs. Hernandez?
No.
Thank you. Trustee Ahmad?
No.
Trustee Dybert? No. Trustee Cortez?
No.
Trustee Seibert?
No.
Mendoza's absent. Clerk Fleet?
No.
And myself, no. Trustees, do we have a motion and second to adopt the agenda as presented? Please state your name when making the motion and seconding the motion.
Trustee Diber, I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Trustee Fleek, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. It has been moved by Trustee Dybert and second by Clerk Fleek to adopt the agenda as presented. Ms. Elizondo, please pull the board for the record.
Trustee Castillo?
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes Hernandez?
Aye.
Trustee Ahmad?
Yes.
Trustee Dybert?
Yes.
Trustee Cortez?
Yes.
Trustee Seibert?
Yes.
Clerk Mendoza is absent. Acting Clerk Fleek?
Yes.
And President Salazar?
Yes.
President Salazar, I counted 8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, and 1 absent. 2 of the votes were preferential.
Thank you, Mrs. Elizondo. Communications, the Madera minutes. Deputy Superintendent Schultz.
I invite you to watch our highlights from some outstanding activities in our district since our last board meeting.
class is back in session, and Madera Unified students and their families visited their schools during the Back to School Night event around the district. This was a fantastic opportunity to chat with the students' teacher about expectations, classroom rules, teaching styles, and more. Madera High School's nurse Heather Dockery was honored by the Madera Police Department during the Madera County's Police Chiefs Association 34th Annual Citizen Award ceremony for her quick actions during a critical incident on campus last year. And 3 Madera FFA members have been chosen as National FFA Proficiency Award finalists. The finalists are Kayla Macedo for her Ag Communications project, Ethan Toro for his Ag Mechanic Design and Fabrication project, and MUSD alumnus William Thompson for his Diversified Horticulture project. They will undergo interviews with the industry professionals and be honored on stage at the National Convention in October. In other things, MUSD's Community Athletic and Recreation Department is hosting free wrestling camps for boys and girls. Participants can learn exciting techniques and advice from high school coaches to enhance their skills and gain a deeper understanding of the sport. And for the first time, Madera Unified is offering girls high school flag football. More than 80 girls from all 3 comprehensive high schools took part during the opening games. The district is also offering girls flag football at the middle school level, making it the first district in the state to offer this opportunity.
Thank you. Item number 6B, public hearing for visitors who wish to speak on a subject not on the board agenda. Mrs. Elizondo.
15 minutes of this portion of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the school board. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the board president has the option of asking the speaker to hold a comment until the item is called. Comments on items listed as public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. The school board is prohibited by law from taking actions on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusion should be drawn if the school board does not respond to public comment at this time. If you wish to address the board on an item not on the board agenda, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you are joining remotely and would like to make a public comment, click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. Speakers will be allowed to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Salazar, we do not have any participants who wish to address the board at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Elizondo. Seeing we're hearing no one, I close public hearing. Item number 7, student board representation. Lahia Webster of Torres High School and Julissa Cruz of Alternative Education. I invite Lila Webster to present to Torres High School Student Board Representative Report.
Good evening, Madera Unified School District Board President Salazar, Acting Clerk Fleek, and members of the board. I'm Layla Webster, here with the Toro Report. Next slide, please. I'm currently a senior and the ASB Vice President. I went to Pershing Elementary, Desmond Middle School, and now I am finishing my final year here at Torres. I am involved in various things in school other than ASB. I play volleyball and softball, and I'm a part of many clubs like CSU and BSU. You'll always see me running around at school. Some of my favorite hobbies are reading. I love romance and thriller books, and binge watching the Twilight series cozied up in my bed. I plan to attend a 4-year university to further my educational journey and become a dentist, hopefully. Next slide, please. We kicked off the school year with a week of events and activities to help our Toro staff and students get reacclimated to school. On the first day, we hosted our annual back-to-school rally featuring games, class competitions, and what not to wear dress code fashion show. As always, our PE department chair, our wrestling coach, stole the show with his crop top and short shorts combo. Next slide, please. Throughout the week, we hosted lunchtime activities to help students connect with each other and with our staff members. The activities ranged from Finish a Lyric, Pie Teacher, and friendship bracelet making to staff versus students, dodgeball, and volleyball. On Friday, August 16th, we welcomed guest speaker Liliane Prado Carrillo, who shared her story of resilience and inspiration with our student body. We ended the week with our annual Welcome Back to School party. Both students and staff are excited to be back. Next slide, please. This summer, Torres High School HOSA traveled to Houston for their international competition. They had 12 students and 3 advisors attend the week-long competition in leadership training. Our very own recent class of 2024 graduate, Marty Corona, placed top 10 in the world for medical math. Next slide, please. In early July, members of Torres, Madera High, Madera South, and Desmond's ASB leadership programs traveled to UC Santa Barbara for a CATA summer leadership camp. Students connected with leaders from all over the state and participated in hands-on learning experiences to prepare them to return and serve their schools' communities with pride and a heart for service. It was amazing to see our feeder middle school attend their first camp, and we are all excited to have more opportunities to connect with them throughout the school year. Next slide, please. In late July, Torres Band and Color Guard hosted its annual band camp to prepare for the upcoming marching season. Students participated in small and large group instruction to really perfect their craft. The week-long camp ended with a friends and family performance where attendees got a chance to preview upcoming music for the year. Next slide, please. In early August, our Link Crew leaders welcomed the class of 2028 to Toro Nation. Students learned about the many great opportunities available to them in high school, took campus tours, and connected with the upperclassmen leaders to help ease their transition into high school. Next slide, please. Last Friday, we celebrated the start of the class of 2025 senior year with music, crafts, lawn games, breakfast, and the sunrise. We had over 350 students in attendance to kick off our senior year, making memories to last a lifetime. Next slide, please. Last Friday, we welcomed Fresno's African Drum Interactive for a lunchtime drum lesson. Students and staff participated in a lesson on African drumming, dancing, and a bit of history. A big thank you to Karsten Christensen and the Community Schools Grant for helping us to facilitate this opportunity at all 3 of our comprehensive high schools this year. Next slide, please. Girls flag football is in full swing at Torres. Our girls took on Sunnyside last Thursday night and beat them 55-0. We are so excited to see what the season brings and are even more excited for the addition of Thursday night lights as we support our Lady Toros. Next slide, please. Just last night, we hosted our annual Back to School Night Carnival. The event featured music, staff-led games and activities, food trucks, a college and career fair for students and families in attendance. It was a great night connecting with our community and showcasing all of the great programs Torres High has to offer. Next slide, please. We would like to cordially invite you to the official opening of Toro Stadium. Our stadium ribbon cutting will take place on Friday, September 6th at 10:30 a.m. We hope you will join us for this special moment in Madera Unified in Torres High School history. Next slide, please. Here are our upcoming events. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Webster. I invite Julissa Cruz to present the Alternative Education Student Board Representative Report.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent Layo, and board members. Hello, my name is Julissa Cruz, and I'm a junior at Mount Vista High School, and I will be presenting information on behalf of the Alternative Education Schools. Next slide, please. First up is Mount Vista High School. Next slide, please. Students are excited to be back on campus at Mount Vista. Our Panthers participated in our lunch event for week 2 with a fun game of musical chairs. The winner received a treat and a Starbucks gift card. It was a great way to kick off this first grading term. Next slide, please. Our after-school program was out at lunch on August 23rd. They brought out fun activities for students at lunch, which has created a great environment for our school. There was foosball, pool, and Jenga for our students to choose from. It was a great turnout. Next slide, please. Students have been invested in our after-school program and have been developing amazing art pieces. This is an awesome opportunity for our students to express themselves at the end of a school day. Our work will be displayed in classrooms and offices. Next slide, please. Here are some of our boys taking the time to unwind at ASP. Students are able to play different video games and play a game of pool. Staff will show up from time to time to interact with students and build relationships. Next slide, please. We will be having our back to school event this coming Thursday on August 29th. This will be a night where our staff will be out and about connecting with our families and community members. Staff will be serving visitors with hot dogs and drinks. There will also be raffles for families to win fun prizes like gift cards, backpacks, and way more. Next slide, please. This year, we welcome some fantastic new staff members to Mountain Vista. We have Ms. Para, our new intervention specialist, Mr. Tobin, our new principal, Ms. Susov, our new reading intervention teacher, and Ms. Lopez, our new student advocate. With their help, we'll have even more support to help our students reach their goals and succeed. Next slide, please. Next is Ripperton High School. New year with new opportunities to grow and become great individuals in the classroom and become great within ourselves. Next slide, please. I think it's the wrong slide. Sorry. It's on slide 10. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Welcome of 2024 and 2025 Ripperton student ambassadors for the new school year. Next slide, please. Back to school night was scheduled for August 19th from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Principal Mr. Jackson met with parents and students that evening. Parents and students were able to visit with teachers and staff throughout the evening. Our Ripperton staff served a small meal to our parents and students of hot dogs and chips. Next slide, please. Ripperton students attending to our garden and maintaining the garden. Next slide, please. Ripperton students in the nest working together every day this school to present video morning announcements to our students and with Mr. Lozano, our intervention specialist. Next slide, please. Our Ripperton store officially opened on Friday, August 23rd for our students. Student ambassadors organized and shelved items for our students at Ripperton. Next slide, please. Ripperton students exploring their campus life in guitar classes of one of our students. Ripperton students checking out library books and about to begin silent reading time in our library. Other Ripperton students exploring the fruit of their labor from the Ripperton garden of cooking their own zucchini. Next slide, please. Our staff at Ripperton nominated these students for the Student of the Week for August 19th through August 23rd. These students displayed resilient, optimistic, accountable, and dedicated to themselves, family, school, and community. Next slide, please. Welcome our new intervention specialist staff, Jonathan Butler. Mr. Butler has 2 thumbs up for this school year for our students and staff at Ripperton. Next slide, please. Up next is the Furman Independent Study Information. Next slide, please. The staff from Furman and the Adult Transition Program were excited to greet students and welcome them to a new school year. Next slide, please. Furman's leadership students take part in class discussions and activities to help prepare them for various leadership roles at Furman. Next slide, please. Students enjoy the expanded seating outdoors during lunchtime. Next slide, please. Students, parents, and staff gathered for the ELAC School Site Council and Title I meetings. These meetings were followed by the annual Back to School Night. Teachers and staff enjoyed greeting families and welcoming them to a new school year. Next slide, please. On Wednesday, August 21st, the student leadership class thanked the 2023 through 2024 Student Board Trustee, Mia Garza, for her service to Furman and Madera Unified. They presented her with flowers in honor of her service. Next slide, please. Students are glad to be back at Furman, learning with the guidance of our teachers. They are looking forward to many more activities to come throughout the school year. Next slide, please. All of the alternative education school sites believe in helping all students, finishing strong, and to graduate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Student Board Member Information and Report. Trustee Castillo, I invite you to share your report with the board.
Good evening. My name is Angelica Castillo, but most people just call me Angie. I am 16 years old, a junior at Madera High School, and this is my first year serving as a student board member. I am on the varsity cheer team and gymnastics team, academic decathlon, mock trial, and I'm a gymnastics coach. After being president of Thomas Jefferson Middle School, the year after we were released from quarantine, the culture and climate of the school was quite depressing, to say the least. While we have made great progress, I now understand the tribulations that my generation face and want to be able to make a difference however I can. By becoming a student trustee, I hope to restore the relationship between school administration and students, as well as continue the progress we have already made from that terrible time of isolation. It is the time for togetherness. So my report for this week, this first week of school. The first week of school, I know nobody likes to start off on a bad note, but I always like to say that once you hit rock bottom, the only way left to go is up, and that was represented through my school. The first week, there were a couple of complaints, but, you know, it was just a lot of personal stuff. There was, I think we just spent the whole first week going over some of like the rules, the, we went over the rules, we went over the social contracts, we went over just like the basics, the things that we go over every year. And some students were a little, or were talking about how it was kind of redundant, that we did the same thing every day for a week. And after that, a lot of people were like, the morale was low. However, the next week we had a lot of participation. We had Senior Sunrise August 16th. We had a football game August 23rd. We had back to school night August 26th, yesterday. And we've had a dress up week this week. And in all of these events, we've seen lots of participation and the energy levels have gone back up. A lot of people are coming to school and I've seen a lot of smiles. One issue that we had encountered in the first week of school was that we have a burrito bowl option for lunch, and our cafeteria facility area where we go and we get our burrito bowls was down. And so we had a lot of low energy students because there was a long line for the regular lunch, or students were refusing to eat. However, August 22nd, the day everyone was waiting for, the burrito bowl line was back up, and now periods 5, 6, and 7 are tolerable again, and we're all smiles and energy again. So the first week might have been a little bit rough for some, but once we started getting back into all of our activities and we had our option to eat again, then everything was okay again. Thank you for listening to my report.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo, or Trustee Castillo, I'm sorry. And now I invite Trustee Cervantes Hernandez. I invite you to share your report with the board.
Good evening, President Salazar, Clerk Fleek, trustees, and Acting Superintendent Shorts. I would like to start off by introducing myself. My name is Angelica Cervantes. I also go by Angie. I am a proud senior at Madera South High School, and a few things I am involved in at school include the public safety pathway, which me and 3 other students will be the first ever to get our SASH this year, as well as Skills USA. I am Vice President of Skills USA. I am Treasurer in Academic Decathlon, as well as Criminology. And I enjoy doing volunteer work, as well as spending time with my family. As a student board member, one of my primary goals is to encourage more students to voice their opinions on issues that concern them about our school and our district. I want to emphasize to students that their voices matter and can influence what happens in our schools. The first few weeks of school have flown by. During the first week, students were welcomed back with not just their welcome back rally, but a series of back-to-school activities, including lunchtime events with ice cream sundaes and club games. These activities allowed the students to enjoy their lunch while learning more about clubs they might be interested in. As the week progressed, more students shared their thoughts on the new 7-period days. Opinions varied. Some students struggled to adjust to the new schedule, while others enjoyed having another elective in order to make up credits to graduate. We have heard positive feedback on the Wednesday advisory periods, with students enjoying it and even comments of being able to catch up on work and meet students that they have not had the chance to meet. Despite the excitement of being back, students have noticed an issue with the bells not ringing on time, which has caused an issue with people getting their breakfast or being late to class. In contrast, seniors are eagerly looking forward to Senior Sunrise and all the upcoming senior events. Freshmen will have the opportunity to explore various clubs during Club Rush this week, which will help them find their interests and get more involved in school activities. Lastly, we would like to, at Madera South High School, would like to wish good luck to the FFA finalists from Madera South in their state competitions. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Cervantes Hernandez. Now on to item number 9, consent agenda. Mrs. Elizondo.
Items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and are acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There is no discussion of these items prior to the board vote unless a member of the board or staff requests specific items be considered and discussed separately and/or removed from the consent agenda prior to the adoption of the agenda. It is understood that the administration recommends approval on all consent items. Bless you. Each item on the consent agenda approved by the Board of Trustees shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended.
I now open the consent agenda for public comment. Ms. Elizondo.
If you wish to address the board on an item included in the consent agenda, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you are joining remotely and would like to make a public comment, click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. Speakers will be allowed to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Salazar, we do not have any participants who wish to address the board at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Elizondo. See no one come forward, I close public comment. I now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. State your name when making the motion and second the motion. Trustees,
Trustee Cybert, I move approval of the consent agenda.
thank you. Do I have a second?
Trustee Ahmad, second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Trustee Cybert and second by Trustee Ahmad to approve the consent agenda. There is no resolution. There is one resolution in the consent agenda. Ms. Elizondo, please pull the board for the record.
Trustee Castillo,
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes Hernandez,
Aye.
Trustee Ahmad,
Yes.
Trustee Cortez,
I will abstain.
Trustee Dybert,
Yes.
Trustee Cybert,
Yes.
Clerk Mendoza is absent. Acting Clerk Fleek,
Yes.
and President Salazar.
Yes.
President Salazar, I counted 7 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention, and 1 absent. 2 of the votes were preferential.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Elizondo. At this time, I would like to take the opportunity to thank and acknowledge the following retirees for their service, not only for Madera Unified, but also for their service and commitment to Madera community. Jeanette Bean, teacher at Pershing, retired on June 6, 2024, after 22 years of service. Letrisa Vrelas, teacher at Lavina, retired on August 21st after 33 years of service. Jacquette Marley, operations supervisor, retired on September 6, 2027, or probably 2024, not 27, after 32 years of service. Thank you for your service and everything you gave back to our community. Information and reports, union time. At this time, I invite the presidents of the unions to address the board. Mr. Holder?
Board President Salazar, board members, Assistant Superintendent Swartz. I'd like to just remind everybody that next week, 9/5, Thursday, is the Salute to Ed at the Madera Fairgrounds, and starts around 5. And so that is next Thursday. like to make a brief comment about Monday, September 2nd, as we all know is Labor Day. And for the first time in many years, the opinions of citizens, in particular young people, are very positive, pro-labor unions and standing up for workers. And based on that position, it's good to see young people are paying attention to what's happening in the country and the world in general, and that we have to be monitoring where our jobs are. There is a serious concern of jobs leaving the country. This has been going on for many years now. We see the impact it has on working people, middle class. These jobs should not be going overseas. Unfortunately, many are. But again, young people are waking up and seeing this. And so again, this is the first time since the 20 years ago that public opinion, especially of young people, are turning for pro unions. And with that said, that is number two. Number three, I've been out to many of the sites since the start of the year, and been in the classrooms and seen a lot of good things going on already. And I'll ask again that Board President Salazar, board members, you may and consider potentially coming out with us as we've done in the past with me and walking like we've done prior to COVID. I think that would be great to restart that again at some point. And that's all I have for this evening. And if you have any questions about September 5th, next Thursday, we sent out some information. I believe Madera Business Chamber President Bray has sent out some information regarding next Thursday at the fairgrounds. Again, it starts around 5 o'clock. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Holder. Any other union presidents?
No, she has no other comment.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent Tyne.
Believe it or not, I do not have any announcements for superintendent's time this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Schwartz. New business, administrative and supportive services. Item number 12A1, award bid number 070924, Universal Transitional Kindergarten Building at Alpha, Pershing, and Virginia Lee Rose Elementary Schools. Deputy Superintendent Schwartz.
Director Rosalind Cox will be presenting this item this evening, and I think she has some good news concerning a bid.
Good evening, President Salazar, members of the board, Deputy Superintendent Schwartz. As you know, with the adoption of Universal Transitional Kindergarten Program, the district needs to add classrooms at our elementary schools. In this first phase, we identified 4 sites to add classrooms, Lincoln, Pershing, Alpha, and Rose. The board has already approved the bid for new classrooms at Lincoln, and that construction is underway. And so tonight we are asking the board to approve the bid for the remaining sites. A bid for the construction of these buildings and related site work at Pershing, Alpha, and Rose was issued by the district on July 9th and July 16th. Bids were due on August 15th. The district received 8 bids for this project, so we had a great turnout. All bids were reviewed, and it was determined that BMY Construction Group was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder with a bid of $11,665,000. The estimated budget was $15 million, so we were very happy with this bid as it was about $3.3 million under budget. We have worked with BMY Construction Group in the past. They were the general contractor that helped us with the irrigation and fencing project at Madera South Ag Farm. That was back in 2010. Most recently, BMY completed a large 2-story building at Madera Community College's Academic Village, and that was a successful project for them. The funding will be from Fund 41. The district, we also applied for state funding for all 3 sites. We were successful in we'll be receiving approximately $1.8 million for Virginia Lee Rose. And that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Trustees, do you have any questions for staff? I begin with Trustee Castillo.
No.
Trustee Cervantes Hernandez.
No.
Trustee Ahmad.
No question.
Trustee Dybert.
No, thank you.
Trustee Cortez.
No questions.
Trustee Seibert.
Yes. You got a $4 million discrepancy between the bids.
So we did look at that and we did talk to BMY. So the reason why they are very low is because they will be self-performing the structural steel work. So instead of having a subcontractor erect the steel, BMY is going to be self-performing that work. And that is where the savings is.
They're paying prevailing wages and.
Oh, yes,
Okay, all right.
most definitely.
Big difference.
Yep. We did have that conversation with them.
Clerk Fleek.
Yes.
Yes, you have a question?
Oh, questions.
Yeah.
No more questions, okay. Only question I have, so we're getting some funding for Virginia Rose. How about Alpha Pershing?
Unfortunately, we did not receive it for
funding
those
for
two
those?
sites. We did apply, and the state did not approve those two sites.
Okay. Thank you. I'll now open this for public comment.
If you wish to address the board regarding this item, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you're joining us remotely and would like to make a public comment, click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. Speakers will be allowed to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Salazar, we do not have any participants who wish to address the board on this item.
Thank you, Ms. Lozano. Seeing none come forward, I close public comment. Trustees, we would ask, you have the questions. Now I entertain a motion and second to approve item number 12A. Please state your name and when you make a motion and second a motion.
Trustee Dybert, I move to approve, to award bid number 070924 Universal Transitional Kindergarten Buildings at Alpha Pershing and Virginia Lee Rose Elementary Schools.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Trustee Cortez, I second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Trustee Dybert and second by Trustee Cortez to approve item 12A1. Ms. Lozano, please pull the board.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes Hernandez.
Aye.
Trustee Ahmad.
Yes.
Trustee Cortez.
Yes.
Trustee Dybert.
Yes.
Trustee Seibert.
Yes.
Clerk Mendoza is absent. And then Acting Clerk Fleek.
Yes, now I have my yes.
And President Salazar.
Yes.
President Salazar counted 8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, and 1 absent. 2 of the votes were preferential.
Thank you, Ms. Elizondo. Item number 12A2, review and discuss the school facilities needs analysis for residential, developmental, and fee justification study for commercial industrial development. Deputy Superintendent Schwartz.
It's that time of year again, and I think this is Director Cox's favorite presentation. So she's here to give you a brief overview of this and next steps.
Good evening again. So this evening, I'll be providing developer fee information in preparation for the next board meeting on September 10th, where the board will be asked to approve a resolution on residential fees and commercial fees. And as you know, this is a routine item that I bring to the board every year at this time, as the board must adopt the study on an annual basis in order to levy level 2 residential fees. And so these slides will look very familiar. So starting off with level 1, so the district must prepare and adopt what is called a fee justification study. And the state allocation board determines the level 1 fee. And they have set it at $5.17 for residential per square foot and 84 cents per square foot for commercial. And the fee may be increased in every even year. So the State Allocation Board approved this new fee back in January of 2024. It was previously $4.79 and 78 cents for commercial. And then level 2 fee, as you know, this fee is assessed if the school district meets certain requirements. And so you need to apply to the State Allocation Board and be deemed eligible for state funding for new school construction, and we satisfy that requirement. We need to adopt a school facility needs analysis annually, and we do that every year. And then we need to satisfy at least 2 of the 4 requirements, and they are listed there. And the 2 that we satisfy are, we have the substantial capital facility debt equal to 15% of our current bonding capacity. And then we have at least 20% of our district's classrooms are relocatable, and we are at 22.6%. As far as it relates to our district, our current residential fee is $5.04 per square foot. Our 2024 SFNA, they calculated our maximum for residential fee is $7, and 58 cents per square foot. Our current commercial fee is 78 cents per square foot, and the 2024 fee justification study calculation for commercial fee is the 84 cents per square foot, which is what the State Allocation Board set. As far as our surrounding districts, so I have here, you can see Los Banos is at $10.18. They were at $10.28 last year, so they came down a little bit. Clovis Unified, they're at $5.86. They were at $5.68, so they came up a bit. And Visalia is at $5.63, and they came up also. They were at $5.50. And then you have districts like Golden Valley, Kings Canyon, Merced, Central, and Kerman. They don't meet the level 2 requirements, and so they can only assess the level 1 fee of $5.17. And then for Dinuba, Turlock, and Fresno and Sanger, they are working on their fee justification study and taking that to their board. So they're in that process. So that's why you don't see them quite yet at 517, but they are working on their fee study. This slide just showing you the history of our fees. So you can see here for our residential, again, commercial fees, right now we're at $5.04 and 78 cents. So you can just see where we've been. And then this next slide is just more information on our residential fees. So the number of permits pulled, the amount collected. So you can see here over the last 5 years, we average about 250 permits pulled. This last year, you can see it has dipped down. It's decreased to what we were back in 2019, 2020. And then finally, as far as the use of our developer fees, you can see here our revenue, which is the collected fees plus interest, is a little over 1.7 million. Our expenses total a little over 3.2 million. The majority of that expense is in our capital outlay, which was for the Torres Stadium project. Our beginning balance was a little over 6.4 million. And then our ending balance was approximately 4.9 million. I went through that pretty quickly, and that takes me to the end of my presentation. Again, I'll be bringing this back at the next board meeting, asking the board to approve a resolution on residential fees and one on commercial fees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask why was go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm probably going to ask a question. Go ahead. You go ahead. He has a question. Go ahead and ask your questions.
Why do you think there was a decrease in the residential permits that were pulled? Because it went from 293 to 170.
I could tell you.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Mortgage rates. Yeah.
Oh, is that
interest
it?
rate. Yeah, mortgage rates, the
Oh,
cost
okay.
of building, cost of living.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Trustee Diber, do you have any questions for staff?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Cortez, do you have any questions for staff?
Yes, so I just wanted to, my question is, what is the percentage of fees that we collect compared, or what part of, do they represent of like the total that it takes to build a school? Or historically, what has that been?
So are you asking, like, of the amount collected, for instance, for 2023-24, we collected a little over 1.2 million. What percentage does that represent of building a new school?
Yes.
Obviously, well, if I pick, let's just pick Mad
just
Tech,
pick-
for instance,
right.
that was approximately $32 million was our construction cost. So, yeah, it's not a lot.
Trustee Ahmad,
No question.
trustee Seibert,
Yes. In 2024, the SFNA's maximum calculation for rental fee is $758. What is that?
So I can go over, and I typically go over the formula of how we arrived at that. I just left
Thing
that
I
at the
read earlier in the
end.
year that they voted to bring up the minimum.
So the
Oh,
maximum,
people
yeah,
accept
they
something.
calculate the maximum. So 758 is the maximum fee that we could collect. So if the board decides to set the fee at above that, we couldn't. 758 is the maximum fee, and that's how they calculated that. And I can go through that. I left it at the
They
end,
had
but
a minimum of what, 517?
517 is level 1. That's correct.
I guess what I read earlier in the year was that I thought that $7 and something was going to be the level 1 fee.
No.
That never happened.
517 is what they set this past January.
Somebody must have had a misprint.
Okay.
So the maximum fee, the 758, and what we have right now is 504. That's an increase of 254. Or we could do the 517, which is the required for
Which is
a
the
level 1
level
fees.
1 fee, correct?
Because if we increase the 254, then that goes down to the consumer, the permit, and so forth. So that's why, like a question was why the amount went down. The permits were pulled from 293 to 170. And so when we have gone up before at prior history and, per square footage, then we showed, history also showed a decrease in permits. So the higher we go, the less permits are pulled. It just seems by history, like you were going, like we went back to see how many permits were pulled and so forth. And because the cost of building and the cost of lending, that affects how many permits are going to be pulled in the future as well. But anyway, I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent, Assistant, where am I at now? Director Cox, sorry. Thank you, Director Cox. Trustees, do you have any questions? You didn't. Okay, now moving on to 12B. I'm sorry, you did have questions. I apologize. 12B1, scholarship, school leadership, present and discuss the Blue Permit growth reports. Deputy Superintendent Schwartz.
So President Salazar, Acting Clerk Fleek, and members of the board, this evening, I believe Assistant Superintendent of School Leadership, Horacio Rodriguez, will be teeing this up and starting the presentation of this item, as well as Area Assistant Superintendent Anthony Catalan.
Yes, good evening, President Salazar, Acting Clerk Fleek, trustees. Tonight it is my pleasure to present to you the growth and achievement reports for our school district from last school year. Tonight's report will be delivered into 3 parts. The first one being around, next slide, please, thank you. I'll try to remember to let you know that, David. You cannot read my mind, can you? It'll be delivered into 3 parts. The first part being built around our NWEA math growth assessment growth rates. The second part will be a summary of our CASP results for last school year. They are embargoed, so this is a projected summary. And then the last part will be the Blue Pyramid analysis done by our Area Assistant Superintendent. I did find that it would be important for some of the audience members and new trustees that we took just a little bit of time to activate not just some prior knowledge, but build a little bit of background knowledge on some of these metrics. Some of the trustees have spent a tremendous amount of time in this data, and you know it very well, but there are some people, I think, in the audience who would benefit from just a few definitions. So if you can bear with me tonight, I promise I will not take this much time the next 2 meetings. I just wanted to activate some of that knowledge tonight. So the next 2 meetings will be part of a 3-part, very riveting series, I'm sure. So next slide. What you see here is a standard bell curve, and you'll eventually see why this is important. The standard bell curve is used for any statistical analysis, and it's used to compare pretty much anything you can think of. And it's really meant to show the distribution of people as you compare them to each other. And so you can use it to compare height, weight, income, how fast you run. It can be how much academic growth you have. It can also be your academic status, how you compare achievement-wise. So the bell curve is used interchangeably in a lot of metrics. And today, the metric we'll use it for is academic growth. And so it is labeled as such. So what you see on the bottom axis or the bottom row there, you see the percent growth. That represents the comparison of students and how much they grew relative to the counterparts. For example, if you look on the far right, I might look this way, might make life a little easier. 99th percentile, all the way down to the 1st percentile, and in the center, the 50th percentile. And if you're using the bell curve to compare growth, what you would find is students who had a very high rate of growth would be in the 99th percentile. That is the top of the nation. Students who had an extremely low rate of growth would be in the 1st percentile. That's extremely slow growth. Most people fall into this average center here. In fact, almost 70% of people, about 68% of people, land in the middle here, and very few people are on the far right or on the far left. This doesn't really tell us anything about achievement. It really, in the way we're using it today, it really is just growth. So you can have a very fast growth student, a student who grew a lot in a year, but we don't know their starting point. We don't know their ending point. We just knew that they grew fast. If they were behind, they probably caught up some. If they were really far ahead, well, they just got further ahead. A student who's very far behind, you want them growing at a faster rate. So if you'll notice also, very few students are on the far right or the far left. What we have found is that because we have so many students who are achieving at lower rates, we want to see more students on the right. So with that, that is how we landed on the 60th percentile growth rate. We do want students to be to the right above average, and actually a little further than average to the right. And that was the reason why the board landed on that goal around 60th percentile, with the theory that, well, the prediction that we know it's true, that if someone is behind and they grow at a faster rate, they tend to catch up. And that's the basis for the 60th percentile goal for those who are new in the room or in the audience. So next slide, please. So this visualization shows that way of thinking. It provides just a few visuals here. We decided to use examples, some pictographs. Fast growth is a student who's growing above the 60th percentile or to the right of the 60th percentile. We'd like the idea of the rocket ship because they're growing at a very fast rate. They're shooting up. The average is usually between the 40th and 60th percentile. That's generally where most people are. They're growing. They're just not growing at a fast rate as the people to the far right of the 60th percentile. So they're growing at about an average rate. And most of those students for NWEA, for MAP growth assessments, average is equivalent to 1 year's worth of growth. So if a student is growing at an average rate, they're growing 1 year's worth of growth. But if they're behind, that's not sufficient. Slow growth is anybody who's growing at less than a 40th percentile rate. That means they're growing only faster than 40% of their population, but they're growing slower than 60% of the population. So if a student is way ahead and they grow at a slightly slower rate, they'll stay ahead. It's like someone who's already 7 feet tall. Their growth can slow down. They're always going to be tall. If you were to take Elon Musk's wealth and his wealth slowly, its growth rate slowed, he will always still be very rich. But if a student is performing low and they're growing slow, the gap is actually increasing. So we cannot have students who are behind and growing at that rate. It's something we just cannot have. So with that, our goal is for the majority of our students to grow at the faster rate. And so I'll show you the bell curve. Next slide, please. So this bell curve, it looks a little messy because what you see behind is you see this line is the original bell curve, and you see the 50th. What we're trying to accomplish, and what the board set as a stretch goal, is we don't want to see half the students on the right. Usually about 40% of students are to the right of the 60th percentile. What you challenge us with is we want to see 80% of the students to the right of the bell curve. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to defy statistical gravity here, and we're bending the curve. So our goal is to take that curve, and instead of having half the students to the left of the 50th percentile, if you notice, the amount of students to the right of the 60th percentile represent 80% of students. So we're saying we need 80% of students to be fast growth, or where the rocket ship is. There are some students who will have average growth, and that's okay, but we don't want that many of them being there. And we want very few students who have slow growth. Generally, we're okay with students who are achieving exceeding standard to have slower growth. That's perfectly natural. They're already very high. And so this bell curve represents statistically the challenge that you have set out for us. And we thought it would be a very nice visual just to kind of refresh everyone's memory. And for those of you who are new, that gives you a sense of the background. So with that, the question is, how have we done? And so next slide can show you here. At the top table, what you see is you see the percentage of students who met their best growth target. Best growth target are students who grew at the 60th percentile or above, so students who met their goal. And in reading in the last 2 years, you can see here, we don't have next year's. What we see is that 39% of students met their best growth target, which is just about at the national average. We have not historically been there. That is a new place for us the last 2 years. And as you can see, that number has been flat for 2 years in terms of the amount of students who reached the 60th percentile. And so at the bottom there, the bottom table, what you see is 42% of students in mathematics met their best growth target, which is actually above the national level, so faster than average, which is actually an increase of 11% year over year, which is considerably high, actually. This metric, though, percent met best, or percent of students who met their best growth target, does have some limitations. I think it's important for all of us to be aware. Like any metric, we use multiple metrics to understand the same phenomena. The example I use is body mass index, BMI. If I told you that my BMI was 22, if you know what BMI is, you'd go, sounds pretty good. But you may not know that my blood pressure is extremely high. So there are other metrics that we look at when we look at learning and the overall, the whole child that we consider. But however, for the sake of this presentation, it is important to know that percent met best only tells us a portion of the story. So with that, I think it's important to look kind of around the corner to see a few more of the metrics that might help us understand what's happening here. So the metric does tell us who met the growth target, how many we have, but what about everybody else? So what you see there is you see 39% of students met it in reading, 42% of students met it in math, but what's the story with people who didn't? I'd like to share some of that too, because there's very, very exciting news with those questions. So next slide.
If I may interrupt you before I forget.
No problem.
You said regarding was it ELA, the top, the top
there,
window there? Yes, you mentioned something about we haven't historically we haven't been there.
Right.
Is that something good? So this was something that we accomplished?
This is growth for sure.
Growth, okay.
Being flat 2 years in a row isn't necessarily where we want to be, But if we stop there, it's a little misleading, and you'll see in future slides that as we unpack that, there's actually tremendous growth behind that you just can't quite see, because all this tells you is 39% who did, but we don't know what happened with the other 61%. Did they miss it by 1 point? No, we don't. And so there's some other metrics. Historically, we haven't been that high in either.
Okay,
So we are showing growth.
that answers my question. Thank you.
No problem. Anytime. Please do interrupt me at any point, and I'm happy to answer any questions or clarify any points you might need. So the next slide, I think we're there. There are some things that this metric does not tell us. For example, considering the same table, this is the same table as the previous slide, there are some limitations to this metric that I think are important for all of us to see. As we've spent a lot more time with this metric the last couple of years, we are becoming better at understanding what it tells us and what it doesn't. So it doesn't tell us, for example, how much above the 60th percentile some of these students grew by, or how much they missed it by. We have students who are in the 99th percentile. This metric doesn't tell you that. We have students, like one of my sons, missed it by 1 point. This metric doesn't tell you that. And so there's some things that are missing from it. In fact, I'd like to share that we have a very large group of students, over 1,000 students in both reading and math, who actually grew above average, but missed the 60th percentile. They missed their best growth target by varying amount of points, but definitely above average. So you're also seeing students who are growing, but not quite making that exact mark that we want them to make. And we have quite a bit of raw data and reports from NWA to show us that. So the other thing it doesn't tell us is how different grade levels are doing. And so I do want to share some of that. I think it's important. So let's take a look at the next slide. We can see around some of these corners that I know that you ask, you generally wonder about these things. Let's take a look at now the percent met best, or percent of students who met the best growth target by grade level. It tells us the amount of students in each grade level. And in the blue boxes, what you see is entire grade levels that grew at an above average rate. So you see generally about 40% of students grow at above a 60th percentile. In this case, we do have 2 grade levels who have surpassed that. And we have several grade levels who finally are getting close to that average rate of growth. So you have, what this shows is that 42% of third graders met their best growth target. 47% of 11th graders met their best growth target. The charge that you have for us is that 80% of the students are there over a 5-year period. By year 2, we are not there yet. Although this might be discouraging because you're thinking, well, we're not there. As we unpack the data and the state assessments, as you'll see ahead, you'll find that in most cases, in fact, predominantly, we've made significant progress in growth, not seen by this single metric. In fact, percent met best, it doesn't tell us quite a few other things. For example, it doesn't tell us where they started or where they ended. Because we know that these students, 42% of them met their best target, but are they still behind? Are they ahead? We don't see achievement built into this. This just shows growth. How fast is somebody running? That's what we know. We don't know that they start the race ahead or behind. We're not sure yet. So there's other metrics we look at. So for that, we look at achievement. So I want to add on the next slide 1 column to this, if you take a look at the next slide. So you see the same exact metrics that you saw on the previous slide. Now we add a column. So whereas percent met best tells us the percentage of individual students who met their best growth target, grade level achievement tells us where they start. Like that metaphor I use, like the race, different students have different starting points. And so some students will have to run quite a bit faster to catch up. Some don't have to sprint as fast. They're already above standard. So what it does tell us, what achievement tells us, is how an entire grade level compares in achievement to their national counterparts. And what you can see here in fall is the achievement level at the beginning of the school year. This doesn't tell us growth. So for example, you'll see that in 3rd grade, in fall of last school year, those 3rd graders started at the bottom 5th percentile in achievement. It's a pretty scary number if you think about it, the bottom 5th percentile. And another example I might show you is 11th grade, they started at the bottom 30th percentile. And that means that they're lower in 11th grade than 70% of their counterparts across the nation. So it's pretty low. So let's see, this is where they started last fall. Let's see where they ended in spring. So we'll take a look at that next slide there. So the comparison there in the red box shows fall, now spring next to it with an arrow. I didn't put the arrows everywhere, but it goes to show, just an example where you can see where the arrow would be. This comparison does tell us where they started and where they ended in terms of national ranking. We call that percentile, conditional percentile or percentile comparisons. So it tells us how students compare to other students within their grade level. So if I look at the example of the 11th grade students, they started in the 30th percentile in fall, and they ended in the 38th percentile in spring. So this might be disheartening, I can imagine. But if you recall, just 2 years ago, the vast majority of our grade levels across the district were in the single digits for percentiles. So when you see these 9, 14, 14, 19, 14, 17, 32, 34, 38, you were seeing single digits before. That's where we were just a couple of years ago. So there has been a pretty steep climb. We can see that happening. And what we see there, we see a change over time where students are starting and where students are ending. And we see that now for multiple years. But we still don't know, is this good growth? I mean, is this as fast as we should be growing? Can we grow faster? We can see that it will take us multiple years of this level of growth to close that gap. Because until we're at the 50th percentile for achievement, average, we're not even caught up yet. So we have several years of this to do. So one of the things we look at is, well, how do we compare to everybody? Is that change good change? Is going from 30th to 38th enough? Is that good? How fast of growth is that? Well, the next slide helps us a little bit with that. So I'm going to add a column here. What you see here, and this is the number that's really telling, and I think that of all the metrics that we consider as an organization internally, when we're looking at growth, outside of CASP, when we're talking about diagnostic growth, this is the best metric for us to look at as a leadership team. What you see there with that extra column in red, you see how each grade level growth ranks nationally. So they grew, but how does their growth compare to their counterparts at their grade level? So what this tells us is how fast did they have fast growth, average growth, or slow growth? Remembering those metrics of above 60th percentile, average is 40th to 60th, and then slow is 40th percentile. So what you see there is that 6 out of 9 grade levels grew above average, 6 out of 9. We don't typically historically do that. The last couple of years we've done that. You've seen some of that data before I've shared with you. And which is equivalent actually to 1 full year's worth of growth. Anything at 50th is a year. So 5 out of 9 grew significantly above that. I'm sorry, 6 out of 9. 5 out of 9 actually as a grade level grew at above the 60th percentile, the whole grade level, which is exceptionally high. And so what you see there is, when I look at this blue box for 3rd grade, yeah, only 42% of the students met their growth goal. We want more. They went from only the 5th percentile to only the 9th percentile. You're thinking, well, that's still low. The growth to make that happen means that they had to grow faster than 80% of the nation's 3rd graders. So they actually grew very, very fast in reading. Wait for math. This is impressive, but math is actually pretty exciting. And so you see here, you have multiple grade levels that grew way faster than their counterparts. And that's what's necessitated by the achievement levels that we have seen historically. So we're doing it. It's happening. I mean, the goal that you set, the charge that you set for us, we're starting to see the manifestation of that goal. The illustration on the next slide illustrates the point. It's just a simple visual for the public especially to see. This shows the same concept. It's the same numbers that I just reviewed with you. What you see on the left is the percentile growth. On the bottom, you see the grade level. You see third grade way above average. So in this case, these are all fast, where you see rocket ships, these are all fast growth grade levels in reading. Where you see airplanes, you see generally average to above average. Average to high average. There's a window there, between 40th and 60th. And we only see one grade level, 7th grade, as you have seen in the past, that 7th grade has been a tough grade for us. And you can see that they're growing slower than average. So you see visually how many of our grade levels are finally, the last couple of years, growing at a pretty high rate. So on the next slide, I'd like to show you math. And so without going through the whole breakdown again, as you can see, the percent of students who met their best growth target, where they started achievement-wise in fall, bottom percentiles actually, and how much they've improved by spring. These numbers in math in particular are really impressive because also when we talk about single digits, they were in the low single digits, just 21-22 school year. Especially coming out of the pandemic, they were extremely low. And so when we look at these numbers on the right, how much growth they've had and how their growth compares to the nation, what you find is that 10 out of 11 grade levels actually grew above average, or the 50th percentile, and 6 out of 11, which is a majority, grew above the 90th percentile in the nation. And that is why you see from 26th percentile achievement all the way up to 36th. Generally, 3 to 5 point change is pretty significant. It's actually pretty hard to do. So with that, the next visual will just show just a quick little illustration of it. You can see a lot more rocket ships. There are no hot air balloons. It's all fast growth rate grade levels, all at the top of the nation in terms of growth. And this is something that NWA has pointed out. Director Ujima has shared that with us, that they're surprised by the amount of growth. And these are numbers that they provide us. They give us the raw data, but they provide us quite a bit of reporting too. And you only see 2 grade levels that have average growth. So we know that the NWA MAP growth assessments, they're diagnostic assessments that we do to measure growth throughout the year. But as you see in the next slide, what does this mean for CASP? How does this translate? CASP is a much harder assessment to move. And I'm very, very, very excited. I can tell you my nerves are not quite as where they were the last few years because of the excitement I feel about this next slide. You'll find that the year before last, if you look on the far left here, you see how the California dashboard, our state accountability model, illustrated our performance. In ELA, we were considered low in orange, and in mathematics, we were considered yellow or medium. And that's a metric that the state provides us. This is right off the California dashboard. And what we've seen historically with more in our recent history after the pandemic is nationally people have regressed. Students have regressed tremendously. And the state of California has not been exempt from that. There's been a tremendous amount of regression. And one of the things that I can tell you is that our school district has defied that regression. And you can see it across the Central Valley. You see a lot of school districts with reds and oranges. You don't see lots of greens and blues actually in the valley. And so what I can tell you is that right now, our internal calculations, because the data is embargoed by the state of California until I think October, we're projected for the very first time since 2017 in the history of our district, since this metric has been used, we're projected to be in the yellow performance levels in both ELA and math because of our improvements and growth last year. And so you can see here, yellow here and yellow here, which is considered medium. Green is a ways away. It's a pretty big stretch. It's going to take us time to get there. Probably we're talking about in years. This isn't a next year thing. The distance is pretty far to the next jump. But that, I think, is something that we as a community should be all proud of. I think that this focus on growth is starting to show. And we see MAP growth assessment, the assessment, NWA, we see it as like the scrimmage. We use it to adjust and grow, but CAS is the game. That's the focus that we look at. That's the state accountability model is built around that. That's the public facing data that we see, and to see that finally we've made some progress. We're not satisfied. We've got a ways to go, but it's something we should definitely be proud of as a district overall. Before we transition, are there questions that I can answer before we transition to the pyramid analysis?
Trustees, do you have any questions for staff? No. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'd like to pass the floor to Area Assistant Superintendent for the Blue Pyramid, Mr. Catalan, to share his analysis of the Blue Pyramid. Thank you very much.
Next slide, please. So in the Blue Pyramid, as we look at our specific pyramids, we had some really neat pockets of growth, and we had some areas for growth, also some areas that we need to improve in. If you take a look, overall, we had different pockets of positive growth across every single school in the district, in the pyramid. We did see definite improvements in the math, as you saw in the overall scores. That's trend stayed consistent in the Blue Pyramid, where we did see stronger numbers in the math pyramid. There were some pockets of extremely high growth to call out, specifically in English in the Blue Pyramid, and that was we had at Madison, at Madison we had Lincoln in 4th grade and Howard in 8th grade. We had significant growth in English. And I said it's significant by being in the double digits. In math, some of our pockets you can see are a lot more. We had Madera High School in 11th grade, Washington 6th grade, Madison 1st and 2nd grades, Lincoln's 3rd, 4th, and 6th, Howard's 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 8th, and Adams had 6th in double-digit growth. So they showed some really good growth between fall and spring on the math department. Elementary schools showed much higher levels of growth in comparison to our secondary sites. They had many more double-digit growth spots. The challenge in the pyramid continues to be our English learners and our special ed and our students with disabilities categories. So we still are struggling there, and we aren't seeing the levels of growth within our general populations. So when you ask us, what's your assessment of the leadership and how do we need to do better and what do we have to address in our pyramid? I believe we need to develop our leaders, our teacher leaders, our staff in the PLC process with the focus on collaboration and that cycle of inquiry. We've got to get them sharing with each other because we see good pockets and then we see some areas where we need to grow. We've got to get them to work together and share. And I believe they're already doing that, yes. But we can continue to grow and see where our strengths and just share with each other. And of course, for our staff to collaborate. So what happens? Ask yourself, what is happening in that grade level? Teachers, what are you doing differently that you're not doing in the other classes, in the other classrooms? How can we steal? How can we steal ideas from each other and say, that's working? And sometimes that's hard. It's hard to say, I am not as good as my colleague, but I want to learn from you. We have to get into that mind of thinking, and we need to continue to work on the collaborative process. How are we going to plan to respond and coach our principals? Continuing to focus on the data, taking a look at our reports and adapt and respond to the needs of each site, as well as the individual grade levels. It's obvious to our principals that there are areas that we need to work on.
We're not going to take that focus off. We're going to continue to focus and say, I want to help work next to you to get to those goals. That's our goal. We need to continue to analyze our pacing, our curriculum, and our standards. And if you notice in the math department, I believe there is a lot of work in that, in creating some stability and some consistency in the math standards. And we're going to be doing more of that work later, continuing to build on that in the future. Thank you. Also, in the Blue Pyramid, all of our principals are online right now, if you'd like to ask any questions of either the individual principals or myself.
Can I ask you one question? Why do you think the elementary schools had higher levels of growth in comparison to the secondary schools?
I come from a secondary background, so I am going to attempt to not, I think no, it's getting a little bit tougher. It's getting a little bit, when we take the jump into 11th grade, for example, we've gone a couple of years without CASP testing. I think they are probably some practices of some intervention that we need to steal from the elementary levels. At times when you go to an elementary room, sometimes we see some really good instructional practices that we don't necessarily see in secondary. And I'll give you an example. At the elementary level, one of the things we see a lot of is group collaboration, group works, little spots, station work. That's not as common. And so the question is, what is appropriate? What can we steal? Because it's not always going to work at the secondary. I think that spirit of collaboration is going to be stronger at that elementary level. That's my opinion. I don't have any true data and research on that to explain exactly, but that's kind of my feel.
I can add if I may. I have just a little more history than Mr. Cadlin, just a tiny bit more. I will add that adding the collaboration time for elementaries was a big shift because historically elementary teachers have not had collaboration time, and you, I know, have experience with that. You're planning on your personal time, and so as a district we've invested tremendously. This board has approved that investment, and so you have that additional collaboration time. The other thing that was a shift is that there's been an investment in the development for the first time, at least in the recent history, of a true curriculum for elementary, a scope, a sequence, and assessments aligned to the standards. There was a huge investment made in our district a couple of years ago that the moment that went live, we saw a jump in growth. And that came out of our Ed Services division and was operationalized through leadership and professional learning of our teachers. So that we noticed that shift. This year, that work is coming to life in English language arts. And so if the pattern persists, we should see another jump in reading because we did fall a little flat with percent met best. We saw growth in reading, but not enough compared to math. So I think those two, plus definitely the spirit of elementary school is different. And as more of our administrators go through elementary schools and up to high schools, we do think that those practices need to filter up to high schools to make them more joyful environments like elementary schools are naturally, I think.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Question?
Yeah, well,
Looking through the different schools, and some schools will have a big growth, but not every school. So what I see is we need to go to those schools where you have the big growth, find out what's going on, and bring it to the other schools that they don't have a peak of big growth. So we really got to do our research and let every other school know why this grade level or these teachers are successful. But just letting a school just compare itself and the PLCs, I don't think it's going to work.
To that point, Trustee Seibert, we have found that since we've had a renewed focus and a lot more digital literacy and data literacy, we have found principals who have used the data and shared it with staff to activate that, a little bit of that competitiveness. And there are some of the principals have reported to me that their staff didn't quite know how they compared with their counterparts. and have been surprised that they didn't score higher compared to their counterparts. So when you leverage a school like James Monroe, who's outperforming most other schools, you see Pershing, who's outperforming most other schools. The schools in other parts of town get competitive about this. They say, man, we're getting our butt kicked. And so there's a little bit of competitiveness in good spirit. But professionally, what we do, I will share to your point, is we have invested a lot of time in creating structures for principals to share what they're doing. We've given the floor to a lot of principals whose schools are growing. For example, James Monroe, we use Mr. Prez. We said, we need you to give us a good 2 hours with principals and walk us through the process that you've used. And that has, I think, pollinated quite a bit of schools with good ideas that they have incorporated. And because of that, you're starting to see more of those good practices, to your point. The era of isolation in education has to be over. Most professions don't operate that way, but we have historically, and we're changing it. But thank you for the point.
It may be a particular class or grade level in a school that you need to bring to the rest of the schools that aren't having that kind of growth. Why are they having that growth? But if you have a school that doesn't have that, growth, if they don't get that outside input, they don't know.
Trustee Dybert?
Yes, that was exactly what I was wondering. I was doing my math here and looking at comparison. I see that Howard, 8th grade in ELA, was called out, and so was in math, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 8th. So I know you do your SAP meetings right after NWEA, right? And I visited one time John Adams, and I saw how the leaders, grade level leaders, collaborate and how they develop their, I think this is it, right, what they worked on? So, and I went to Torres, and I saw that each school was working on their own. So when is exactly, to the point of Trustee Seibert, when is there a chance that all 8th grade level teachers, leaders, do they meet and they get from each other? Because I think that's a good example. Or do principals go to other schools, like, for example, to see 8th grade at Howard and say what's working in the 8th grade? Not just district, but, principals, because they are the ones who work directly with the teachers. So I would like to know a little more on what is that you're doing. And the other question I have, you said something that the English learners is where, need to work on. So what's the percentage of English learners in the district, and how you addressing moving forward? Thank you.
So we do have, of course, within the school, we have collaboration. I know that, for example, Howard, being a country school, does have multiple teachers teaching the same grade level. And in some cases, historically, we've gone as far as asking for cross-school collaboration when you have some of the smaller schools. In terms of an organized way for teachers across the district in that grade level to all collaborate at the same time is tough, because you have to create non-student days for that to happen. So although we have a lot of collaboration built into the day for teachers within the same school, where you have entire grade levels, we used to have something called collaboration days. And that was something we negotiated with our labor partners. Unfortunately, this year we don't have that. So we did lose that opportunity for there to be a lot more collaboration to happen. In terms of our EL numbers, off the top of my head, are we at 30% of our population are English language learners? It is a large chunk. And the percentage of students decreases over time, by grade level over time. So they're larger in elementary and smaller in high school.
I have one concern.
Trustee Seibert?
Go ahead.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll wait.
I had next steps on one of these schools that says we're going to abandon our SAP ELA focus on writing and shift to reading. Well, I don't think you want to abandon the writing. I mean, that concerns me when they say they're going to abandon that and focus on reading. I mean, yeah, I mean, you agree with that or what? I mean, that scares me when they say they're going to abandon the writing.
I can revisit the context of what they wrote in their SAP, but I can assure you I don't see any school just abandoning it. But I do think probably to their point, it was more of a, this is our priority. But there is no way we can abandon reading or writing.
Well, we
either
used to
one.
have good math scores. Well, they kind of forgot math and went to reading. Now we're back, we're concentrating more on math and our math scores are coming up. So you can't abandon one or the other. But you gotta maybe, focus a little bit more on something, but you don't drop, the focus on what you're doing good or you're improving on it. Or you gotta have a balance.
Can I address that? This is Laura Quiroz from John Adams.
Yes, please.
Through the improvement science language that we use, it asks us to adapt, adopt, or abandon. So that comes directly from our improvement science that we use for our SAP days. And so taking from the language from improvement science, of course, through improvement science, we're abandoning that as our SAP initiative. But because writing is a standard, we don't abandon teaching writing, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense to you.
Thank you. And so of course, at Adams, we did use that language in our report. And so this means that we are taking a school-wide focus on literacy and really focusing on reading across grade levels and unwrapping our standards now that we have our ELA scope and sequence. Of course, we have to teach all 42 standards in ELA, but our focus, what we're really driving across the school site is literacy, because that's what our data is pointing towards being our greatest need.
Only concern is the past years, what I've seen is they abandon one thing, go to another, then the one they abandon suffers. I don't want to see that happen.
Trustee Cortez?
Yes, I'm a little cold here, so my voice is going to sound a little shaky. So there was so a couple of things. The first one is regarding the reports, the elementary growth reports for each site. As I was going through them, they're really inconsistent as far as mentioning the growth, the board goal or the district goal, as far as 80% of our students reaching their best growth target. So some reports mention it, some reports don't mention it, some reports sort of mention it. And so that's where I would like to see a little more, more consistency for sure, actually, there. So, there are about half of the sites that, at least in the Blue Pyramid, that mentioned it or alluded to it, but about half of them did not whatsoever, as far as I could see or read. So that's one thing there. And the other thing was the growth target, just to, I guess, clarify, right? So there could be a student that is in that 60th percentile growth, right? Or experiencing 60th percentile growth, but by virtue of being just so low performing prior to that, they're still not at the grade level, right?
That's
but
correct.
that does not mean that that should not be celebrated, right? Because
That's
that's a big achievement.
That's right.
So, and the other thing is, what challenges in collaboration are you aware of, or what remained, challenges as far as collaboration? You also mentioned something about, just people in general, right? Anybody's not, it's kind of uncomfortable to talk about your areas where, of opportunity, where you could, use some help or some assistance. And it's really tough to, really put yourself out there and to say, hey, I'm really struggling in this area, and I'm way below as far as some of my peers. But we also have all this data at our fingertips, right? And so I feel like to some extent that shouldn't really be somebody shouldn't really be wondering about where they are, because the information is out there, right? I would imagine they have they have access to all this data, certainly their own data as far as like their own performance. And so, but I understand it is tough to kind of put yourself out there and ask for help. It's, a lot of us are not that great at it. So But yes, so what challenges are you currently experiencing as far as collaboration? And also if you can tell me about challenges regarding the scope, sequence, assessment, alignment of those three?
So I think with the collaboration, I think you touched on a few things, and I think some of the concerns are there is a human characteristic, at least it is with me. Am I failing my students? Am I failing myself? And that guilt that I don't want to fail. And sometimes that's hard to acknowledge. I think if we flip that and we ask our teachers, our leaders, how we can grow. We're just asking how we can get better. We're not asking, we are not there to our growth targets yet. And I think with that growth mindset, it's the yet. We have to just instill confidence in all of our leaders, our teachers, and even our students that you're just not there yet. At TJ, I could tell you over and over, I can't do math. I'm not good at math. Well, why don't you work with a friend? Well, we can't do math. So if you just flip that and just say, you can't do math yet, we're not there yet, and focus on the growth. So I think part of the challenge in collaboration is taking that mindset to say, it's okay if we're not there yet, but we need to continue to work together to get there. Ask your partner what we can do to get better. When we can really ingrain that into our principals, our teachers, and our students, I think we're going to find that magic in collaboration, that magic to be able to say, we can do this. I think that's going to be key. And part of that is just instilling some confidence across the board. And I think Superintendent Lau does a great job. We're just going to keep getting better. We're not there yet, but we're going to keep getting better. The second part, I'm sorry, Trustee Cortez. Alignment of scope and sequence challenges.
This is the first year we do it in ELA, and is this the third year now in math or third year? I think familiarity with the materials, the order of the materials. I think there's a little bit of a culture shock at first with, I've always taught it this way. This is the way I always do things. We're going to prioritize. We're going to put things in a specific order. We're going to assess more methodically. There's a little bit of a culture shock, but ultimately, I think people generally gravitated toward being able to grab onto something that was more disciplined, more professional. It actually gives them an anchor to work off of, because generally you're handed the state standards, which are immense. You're given all this core materials, and you've got to make sense of it. If you're on a grade level team that has a lot of that made, you inherit some of it. Now it's official and it's universal across the district. So ultimately, with our in elementary, Director Guerriero and her team kind of going on a campaign site to site, doing professional learning for all the teachers at every grade level across the entire district, it's gone really well. I think the data shows that. And in terms of the feedback, it's been positive. I haven't heard any protests or anything like that about it. So I'm hoping, and I know the work has already started with ELA this year. So knowing what we learned when we rolled out math, I predict it's going to work out just as well.
And I just kind of want to comment back on something that you mentioned right now, Mr. Catalan. A lot of times we do tell ourselves, I'm just not a math person. And it's more of a decision than, it's really not reality, right? You can become a math person. You can decide, you can make that decision. But a lot of times it's just a self-fulfilled prophecy, right? That we kind of set ourselves up and kind of grow into not being a math person. But I totally agree with that statement. Yeah, you meant the comment you made. But I think, thank you for Assistant Superintendent Rodriguez and Assistant Superintendent Mr. Catalan. Thank you for digesting all this and giving us a refresher, and it gives me more confidence, looking at these reports and interpreting them and understanding what they mean. And also it helps me formulate better questions for you, when you guys are presenting. And so I look forward to the continued reports. And I think we should celebrate our gains. So thank you guys.
Trustee Ahmad, do you have questions for them?
Yes, thank you for, most of, as you have said earlier, majority of our school grades level are in positive growth. What is the main reason on the 7th grade is low, or what we can improve in order, because when I look at 6th and 7th grade, the 7th grade is very low. So, and it's, as you said, 3 to 6 point going up is hard, but it's going down also is not good. So what we can do to improve 7th grade, or what we are going to be doing differently this year to add, or what sources we are going to be using to improve the 7th grade.
So I had brought this up when we initially took a look at the data, and one of the things that really popped out real quick to me was 7th grade is, for other than the country schools, a transition year. They just changed schools. So that's one part of it. The other part is the human body and going through different changes in their life and starting to grow in different ways. But the number one thing we thought, this is their transition year. And so one of the questions, because at TJ, when they come in as 7th graders, some of them are very small. They still want to play on the playground every single day, and that starts to change. What we need to do, one of the things we need to look at is how can we transition them in that very difficult 7th grade middle school year. We also see some dips in the 9th grade also. So as they transition school sites, we are seeing these dips. So one of our questions is, how do we support, and maybe the first part is why? What is the reason why in those transitions? Is it they're trying to figure out the new school and all of that? What is the reason behind it? And then we can figure out ways to address it. But we do see a correlation between the transition and the scores dipping.
One thing I'd like to add, if I may, that we added with the board's approval a huge investment in middle school this year with adding a vice principal to each middle school. And part of that is the struggle, as Mr. Ketelon is describing, that happens during that time period, and the tremendous amount of cultural support, behavioral support, emotional support that students, God help me, I have a 7th grader, that students need during that time. We know that by adding a 3rd vice principal, the workload becomes a little more doable. It was just an overwhelming level of work when we looked at the data and unpacked how many hours were equivalent to the data we were seeing. It was overwhelming, and I think not doable in middle school. So by adding the additional staff, I predict a lot more stability. And we're already seeing that difference when we talk to our middle school people. We're already starting to look at the discipline data. It's already different. It's amazing what an additional person does. And so I think that's going to create a lot more stability behaviorally, but also much more focus on staff and new staff. You have a 3rd vice principal who can be on teacher teams, who could be in classrooms, who could be meeting with new teachers, who can be helping stabilize families, because they do a little bit of everything. So there's some opportunities there that we think we can leverage this year that's unique this year. And of course, that's an investment you will make.
Help to add in the vice principal. Of course, it's a transition for the kids, but we already know it's going to be transition. That's so right. We should be prepared for that. That's right. So that we know, so it won't drop as much. So if we already have already prepared for this. Even as you said in the 9th grade, yeah, I know it's changed schools again. So, but we already know it's going to be changed. So I wanted to see what we can do better to improve that, so it won't drop that much.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, as for myself, so one in the average growth is we're in the like 60th percentile, right? Average growth that we are in.
I need to get my notes here. The average growth, it depends on the metric we look at. The table that best describes average growth would be that 4th column, and I wish my slides were numbered. I'm sorry that they're not numbered, but it would be the 4th column, how each grade level growth ranks nationally. That would be the best answer to what our average growth is. And so you can see, for example, and we have it by grade level. So for example, there we go. That would be for mathematics. Average growth would be where the box is, the red box. On the far right side. Sorry, I'm
So
looking
from
for
the beginning, in the last few years, we're at a growth at 92%, say like first grade, 48%.
It would be between fall and spring. These students, the amount of growth that these first graders grew between fall and spring would be in the 92nd percentile, which means these first graders in one school year grew higher than 92% of all first graders in the country.
Okay.
Yep.
So, so then my question was, so we have some teachers that we still need to motivate them to collaborate. So at what point does the principal motivate them to collaborate? Because it's a change of mind, change of style, like you said, some to transition from old ways of teaching to new ways of teaching. Students are evolving, especially seventh graders, and I agree with Trustee Ahmad in the seventh graders. But at what point does the principal, when they get this reporting, do they, you know, in his PLCs or whatever in the days we give for planning and do the principal take that initiative that these teachers need to collaborate with these teachers are taking on already, and you could see their growth and the motivation.
That's right. We actually have some written expectations that we've made across the district. In elementary, it's a minimum of 100 minutes of collaboration time per week. And that's built-in time the last maybe 4 years that we've had. In middle school with the 7-period day, now we're in our third year, if I'm not mistaken. And in high school in our first year of the 7-period day. So we have now mandatory built-in collaboration time daily. And our expectation is that vice principals and principals be present during a portion of that time and be there to facilitate the collaboration. There's a team leader who is paid a stipend to be a team leader as a teacher. And we have written agendas with expectations built around the solution tree model for PLCs. And the accountability is built in. If a teacher isn't collaborating at the level they would need, then we have the personnel process to follow and some accountability measures. I would say the spirit of collaboration is improving. It's been a hard lift because the culture of teaching is that of isolation historically. I know that as a teacher coming in, and you were told, hey, if the vice principals are in your classroom, you're in trouble. If they're not in your classroom, you're doing great. And we do the opposite today. We're in everybody's classrooms. That's the expectation. With collaboration, you made your stuff, you didn't share it. There was an attitude of, hey, this is mine, I made it, you make your own. And that has completely shifted. But it's been a hard shift, and it's not necessarily universal yet. I think that we're still going through growing pains. As we can see in secondary with the 7-period day, we're still pushing ourselves too.
On the reports that we got for the spring, on your blue pyramid for the NWA, this one. And so what my concern is in the fall, when we take this test, and of course the kids have come in, they've already started school, really like 6 weeks into it, where we take the first test, right? That their test scores are lower. And then in the spring, we bring them up. So at that time, like, I go back and do a report and I see, like, say, like, which surprised me that, like, in Howard in math, in last fall in 23-24, second, third, and fourth, they were at single digits. But then they did jump up to the 32%, you know, average, which is great. But it's just that fall when they first come in. And so, and again, with the PLCs and with the planning and collaboration, that we build them up so they be ready when they take that fall in an NWA test, that they're, you know, more geared up for what, you know, is expected of them and what their challenges might be right before they take those testings for these students, especially the ones that need more of a growth, you know, more understanding.
What you're pointing out is a real phenomenon. It's called a summer dip.
Yeah, exactly.
A summer dip, and it does happen in fall. And we do notice when we compare spring to spring, we're still seeing the same rates of growth. So that's pretty good to see, because then they're ending higher each year. And so in some of the data we see, the students are not always the same. So if you see third graders this year, third graders next year, it's different third graders. So there's some other factors to consider there. However, the point you're making about the fall and taking it seriously and seeing the test as a diagnostic, it's for us to know what you need to learn and where you are. And that culture around assessment being a good thing. It's not a test. It's us watching you where you are so that we know how to build you up, I think is an important point. We're constantly campaigning for that, to your point, to make sure that that dip isn't so far down. We need to get an accurate measure and fall.
And one thing that I would like George Washington to look at is in their fall of last year and their spring, in fourth and fifth in math and reading, they didn't move very much. Their data didn't move very much. So why did we, stay, why did they stay at those levels? Because they were like 28.05 to 28.57 in the fourth grade, and then the fifth grade, they were like 27.59, 27. And really in the fall, in the spring, they went down a little bit. But why? Because they've been consistent in bringing up especially George Washington, been consistent. So if we get on that road of being consistent and increasing, let's not become complacent. And I reached that goal, I'm going to stay there. But let's keep on the challenge to themselves, from leadership all the way to the teachers. But it was also both in reading and math. And then on and Ripperden, why did we only get like one reading for them? I know that they vary because students are in and out as well, but it's just that in that program, our dollar to ratio and all that we spend on Ripperden, what is the program that's working, not working there for those students that meet more challenges of life that they encountered or to achieve their schooling, period?
One of the challenges we see historically, I know that Mr. Catalin can describe this probably in more detail. Historically, we see a lot of variation at Ripperden in particular, Furman to some extent too. Less so at Mount Vista because students can be there for a couple of years. At Ripperden, the challenge is that students are there for a semester or two generally. They're not there for multiple years, so it's always different students. And so it's really hard to compare historically. So that is a bit tough for us, and ultimately knowing how students end up there, just the effort that's necessitated by that environment to stabilize students is generally the focus. We've seen more recently some improvements this year, and last year with Mr. Jackson, we could see changes in that way, but it's not consistent. It's just, that's the hard part. So I think we need a few years of data to see the effect of his leadership. And probably a more nuanced approach that you're describing the kids changing, being better at following those students instead of following grade level data, follow that cohort, that student data to see.
Exactly.
That's a tricky part for us, but no, thank you for that point. It's important.
Okay, thank you.
And President Salazar, I think also
Ms. Angie, Trustee Castillo has a question.
I just wanted to know if you guys have taken into consideration the length of the test as like a contributing factor to the scores. Currently this week, we're taking the NWEA, which I found it ironic.
Yeah.
And like, I guess a floating question that I've heard from both like secondary school and like, even like the first graders, kindergartners, or not kindergartners,
Yeah.
But is the length of the test.
Right.
It's hard for like a lot of students, especially in the reading portion, which I've noticed that the reading portion, the scores are a little bit lower. They kind of like, I guess, answer whatever as like their last answer of desperation by the end of the test. And I just wanted to know if that was a factor that's taken into consideration.
It is, in fact, we have a director, Director Chima runs a department on assessment, and she provides quite a bit of data for us that shows the correlation between test length and performance. And there's a bit of a sweet spot. The assessment should not be as long as you're probably seeing. And part of that, I think, is a failure on our part to make it very clear the purpose of the assessment. It's a diagnostic. So if you're an athlete, I know you are, you said you were, a coach wouldn't need 3 hours. I would just need to see you do what you do a few times and diagnose, okay, now I see what the growth area is for her. If I made you do it 3 hours, eventually your performance would actually decrease. So I think that we've been on a bit of an information campaign with our principals to say, and we provide them the data, look at these kids, how long they took, look at these teachers' average test length. They're missing the point of the test. It's not for them to perfect the assessment. You can't do that. It's to just diagnose in a short period. It should be about 40 to 60 minute time period for that assessment. What's happening is because people want to do well, they take a lot longer, and teachers feel the pressure for their kids to do well, so they're letting them take longer. So we're trying to clarify that practice so that it doesn't take that long, because it's computer adaptive. The assessment actually gets harder the better you do. And so if you're a perfectionist and you're trying to spend 30 minutes on a question just to get it right, the next one's going to take you 45 minutes. At some point, it's like, listen, we're going to diagnose you for 45 minutes. That gives us all we need. It's not the CASP. It's not finals. It's not the bar exam. It's just a quick diagnostic. So what you're noticing indicates to me that we're not done yet with the information campaign out there, from site leaders to teachers all the way down to students, to say, this is, it's not CASP. This is just a quick diagnostic. We need to be better about that. And I'm glad that you brought that point up. It helps us know that we're not at the level we need for understanding of that assessment.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Sorry, just want to make a comment. I was reading some of these reports, and some administrators, they mentioned the Me to Be report. And I know the teachers and administrators, they bent over backwards, really. I mean, I commend for all the work you've done here, and it's good for us to know. And I'm glad the student board members are also chiming in. But I think it takes also another part of that here is the students and the parents be aware of how the students are growing. I spoke with Superintendent Lyle about this. I think it's very important that the students take accountability on their growth, because I know when I sat with my child when he was little, he knew, I said, you're not growing. We read the CASP, and I say, you're growing here, you're not growing here. What else that you don't have that I give you that so make them think and make them responsible for I know not all the kids have the parents at home, but I think on the parent-teacher conferences, it's very important that the teachers utilize that tool. The first one, I haven't seen the new one, and I know it's more concise, but the one that Babatunde presented to us once was the picture of the student. It was a nice report where what your sports like, what do you want to be when you grow up. I think if some motivation for the parents themselves and the student that sees where you are, just what you show to us, like to me, I really like how you explained. It's kindergarten style for me. I'm like, oh, this is perfect for me because I'm not there. I think that should be something that makes students, because they want to know. They want and they have aspirations just like everybody. When you go to college, you sit with your counselor and you say, well, you're on the right track. You need to, do this or that. And I think that should be a practice for every teacher when they sit down with their parent and the student, listening to what is that they need to grow. And I saw in some of the reports, some administrators mention it, not everybody, but I think it takes, students are play a very important role in their own growth and success too. So thank you for this report.
You're very welcome. And we agree. In fact, it was as a result of a board meeting where Trustee Cortez had talked about the Me to Be not being universally used recently. And he suggested potentially a checklist or some sort of guidance for our parent-teacher conferences. We got to work the very next day. We built that. We shared it with principals. We distilled it down to a few key things. Me to Be is on the top of the list of the expectations for every parent-teacher conference. And goal setting is universal across the district. I spot check with my own children. I'll say, hey, I looked at your NWA scores. Did I meet my goal? Did I meet my best goal? So I know they're interested in it. And across the district, I think, to your point, it's starting to work where kids have that intrinsic motivation to want to grow. And the schools are doing a really good job. Our teachers are doing a really good job of celebrating that growth. And it creates that intrinsic motivation for the students because of it. I mean, we agree.
Trustee Cortez, did you have another question for me?
I did. I just wanted to, you mentioned something about, just want to make sure I got it right. So there's a requirement for 100 minutes per week for collaboration time?
In elementary school? And does it vary, or is it 100 total in elementary? That's right. That's right. So K-6, it is universal that they get 100 minutes together, as Associate Superintendent Sissel mentioned, for them to collaborate. They do get additional prep time, and that varies based on the grade span because of the incorporation, just the way the schedules are built with PE.
And then there's if I heard correct, there's an additional 150 minutes for elementary and intermediate, another 200, is that correct?
And that is mostly for other professional activities, not necessary collaboration. They can volunteer to collaborate, and some grade levels do. They collaborate more, but beyond the expectation is a floor of 100. Beyond that, they can do lesson planning. They could be correcting grades. They can be doing professional development. They could be, there's a whole variety of things they could be doing. Sometimes they're in IEPs. There's a variety of activities.
And then I do have a question regarding NWEA, and it has to do with the messaging that students receive from the teacher. And I'm not sure exactly what the messaging should be there, but I have heard in the past that the messaging is something along the lines of, don't worry about this assessment because it doesn't really affect your grades. So, the importance of it is downplayed. And so, I'm not sure that that's the appropriate messaging, if that is in fact what's going on in some cases. So, it doesn't sound like it should be to me.
Yeah, we agree. Thank you for that.
Trustees, any more further questions for staff? Thank you. Assistant
Very welcome.
Superintendent
Our pleasure.
Rodriguez, and thank you. Okay, we relax questions. Moving on to number 13, announcements. Deputy Superintendent Schwartz, do you have any announcements for the board?
I do have just a couple of announcements this evening. So the first one is the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee will be meeting tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. at the Torres High School Library. Second announcement is the Madera County School Boards Association will be holding a general meeting tomorrow at Liberty High School. So the Madera County School Boards Association meetings tomorrow. I believe MUTA President Holder mentioned this earlier this evening, but the Distinguished Teacher Awards will take place on Thursday, September 5th at 5 p.m. at the Madera Fairgrounds. And finally, Monday, September 2nd is Labor Day, and we hope everyone enjoys the holiday.
Thank you, Deputy Assistant Schwartz. Excuse me. Item number 14A, miscellaneous board member committee and information reports. Trustees, is an opportunity for you to provide the board with a brief update or report from committee meetings or events you have attended. I start with Trustee Ahmad.
Yes, on August 15th, I attended a Lifetime Achievement Award. It was arranged by Chamber of Commerce, and also it was awarded around 44 of them. And it was a good turnout. There was quite a few people came in this time. And also I attended yesterday back to school night at Madera High School. I visited a few classroom and spoke to a teacher, and it was good to see that a lot of people and our parents were there and going in different classroom and talking to the teacher, and it was really good. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Trustee Ahmad. Trustee Dybert.
I have nothing to report this time. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Cortez.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Seibert.
No report.
Okay. Trustee Fleek or Clerk Fleek.
Okay, we know all the schools have been having their back to school nights, and the teachers are informing the families about their classroom and grade expectations. And a couple of parents at some that I've gone to have actually stayed, and then they asked the teacher if there was something that they could do to help. So I thought that was really nice and encouraging. The Safety Committee presented information on 3 therapy dogs that will be introduced this year to our students. Madera girls have had their first flag football games, and it's also the start of football for our young men. Yesterday at the Madera County Arts Authority meeting, the Arts Council hired Arif Latif for community outreach to increase arts and culture engagement with our community. And today at lunch, Corsaro's Pizza,
Casaros.
yeah, haven't been there, was honored for supporting schools in Chowchilla. And it was a very nice luncheon, and it was nice to hear about how all these different businesses are helping our students and our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Fleek. As for myself too, I attended the Lifetime Achievement Award on the 15th. On the 21st, me and Clerk Mendoza attended the facilities meeting where we discussed some funding, ELP funds that we need to spend before the deadline that we have according to the state. So we're working on those with staff. And then today, as Clerk Fleek said, was a crystal ward, and it was given to Corsalos out of Chowchilla, where they give and they help some of the students from like Chowchilla Unified School District. Other than that, that's it. Thank you, trustees, for sharing. Item number 15, advanced planning. The next board meeting is scheduled for September 10th, 2024, here in the Madera Unified School District Boardroom. Suggested future agenda items. Trustees, do you have any items that you would like staff to present at the future? I start with future board meetings. Trustee Ahmad?
No.
Trustee Dybert?
No.
Thank you. Trustee Cortez?
No, nothing to add, but I do look forward to the continued elementary growth reports in middle school and high school.
I think next we're going to go back to red pyramid, I think maybe next time, or we're going on to purple. Well, we'll find out. Because we skip red. Yeah, we skip red because of, and anyways, Trustee Seibert, I apologize. No. Clerk Fleek?
Yeah, I know this isn't academic, but I would still like, now that I've gone to different sporting events, for the students to know the alma mater. I mean, I will be there and I will be singing with some other older person like me, our alma mater, and the kids have no idea. But I think it's really important because, like, you know, I'm over 50 years out of high school and I still remember the alma mater. And I think it's important because it gets you closer to your school.
Thank you. You guys hear that, staff? She's gonna go with pop poms for the next one, make sure they sing it. As for myself, the board is working on our governor's handbook. It hasn't been updated in 10 years, so we're working on that. We'll get that revised, and then next we'll be updating our board calendar, which will be posted in our website and so forth, and we'll get that done as soon as possible as well. Other than that, I think that's it. It is 8:40, and I adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for attending the meeting. Good night and be safe.